Whoa, look at that pour. Oh my god.
This is how you're supposed to pour craft beer. You gotta let those aromatics out.
Like,
You're gonna not.
Hey, lay down. Sit down. Is it on?
It's rolling, boys.
Okay.
All right.
So we got Rick, Cody, and Adrian over here. We are potentially, doing a series. Basically, first impressions of games. So today we got Photosynthesis.
Blue Orange Games.
Photosynthesis is an abstract environmental game that requires up to 4 players to select a species of tree, designated by color, and propagate them as much as possible over the course of 3 rounds. Each round consists of 1 revolution of the sun around the play area of the board, with each revolution divided into 6 steps, resulting in a total of 18 movements of the sun before playtime expires. The players start by planting 2 small trees on the outskirts of the play area. Each tree exposed to unobstructed sunlight earns light points for that species, with bigger trees earning more points. Points can then be spent on their player board. If one buys a seedling, the seedling can be planted in the play area a small number of spaces from one of your established trees. The taller the tree, the further away the seedling may be cast. Or the player may choose to grow an already planted tree into a bigger tree, with the goal being to increase the number and/or size of the trees and maximize light point collection in future rounds. However, in photosynthesis, trees can cast shadows on other trees, which blocks their sunlight. The taller the tree is, the taller the trees it can block will be, and also the further away it can cast its shadow. Because players can cast shadows on the trees of their opponents, players should strategize and plot out the optimal location and height of each tree they grow. Once a tree has reached its maximum size, the player can harvest the tree for a bounty of victory points chosen in descending order from the tier relating to the spot on the board from which the tree was harvested. Unspent light points provide a small source of additional victory points at the end of the game.
I'd start off by, asking how much do you guys like the premise of the game? Did it do anything for you? I know that's kind of a big thing for me. First thing, the game's got to work properly and everything, but first impressions are kind of important.
Yeah, actually, I think that's one of the more attractive aspects of the game. One, it's kind of, it's pretty to look at, kind of in a sort of simple, kind of bucolic aesthetic, but it's also, how many games are there about like trees and competing kind of for like sort of an evolutionary advantage kind of. There's actually some that are about animals in that way, but not really plants.
Yeah. Honestly, it didn't stick out to me at first because I'm usually more into themed games like sword, sorcery, superhero, that kind of stuff. But it was a very fun game. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So where are these available trees?
That would be for growing. You would use the medium one to grow this one, for example.
Grow up.
Gotcha.
God, good. I don't know why you tried, video. I don't even know.
This is gonna be our new series.
I'm ending my friendship after this is done. Okay.
Would you have said, like, if you saw this game sitting on a shelf at a library, would you have avoided this game?
Probably.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I played it though, because it was a lot of fun.
Sun points, so moving that up to 2 from 0. Because you have 2 trees that both collected 1 point. So now we go to the action phase, and it's Cody, who's the youngest and has the
virile penis.
points, so that's back to 0. And
Here's your 2 points for you right here.
it's been like 2.5 minutes of video. I can't use any of it.
You've inspired me to go to new heights, Adrian, with your camera.
Okay, Ricky. I'm not gonna be able to use any of our videos. Alright, so they're both on the back side. And you have...
So now, I'm not assuming I'm smarter than that. We're gonna have to disassemble those every time, aren't we? I mean,
I don't know. That's a good.
That's not too.
That doesn't
bad,
look fun to
though.
store.
It's okay. It's I've seen worse. That's okay.
I will say this: the game came with a lot of extra cardboard stuffing. I think if I took this out, this might be room intended for keeping those trees intact.
Is there different sections there for different tokens or?
No, that's I would say a complaint about the game actually is that there's not much. There's no molding or anything to help you store it. You just have empty cardboard backers in here, which I think are designed to just eat up half the space of the box, so that when you expand the trees, you'll be able to store them in the box anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I think, but I have not tested that part.
So what I really like about this game is kind of like a resource management game, but it doesn't have any of the headaches of Catan or Puerto Rico or any of those type of games. It's pretty streamlined, simplified.
That's a good point about Catan and Puerto Rico. This is a game that really only has, as opposed to those which have like 5 different currencies. You gotta keep your hay, your straw, and your wood. In this case, the only resource really is sunlight, hence the name photosynthesis. So that kind of streamlines the game down to a little less thinking. You could buy a couple more seeds, or you could buy a small tree. You could upgrade a tree. That's pretty much it.
Which kind of leads me to my next topic. What do you guys think? I guess overall, as far as on a long-term complexity level stance, obviously we only played it once, but what do you think as far as like a strategy, like going forward? I always thought when I was playing it, I kind of played it just, and of course, being new, I typically do, but I have to play it on my own little island. I'm just doing my own thing. I'm not necessarily trying to affect anybody else.
Okay. And did you already go?
Mm-hmm.
You did, right? Okay.
Yeah, I was first. Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was first.
Yeah. Okay. So
Fuck my can try to get another.
I think this is a good plan to put one here and there, and I'm going to get points for that, and I'll just go ahead and do that. But I wasn't thinking too deep as far as, that guy's going over there, I need to do this, I need to be looking at this long term, which obviously there's a lot of that going on, but
sure.
I don't think it was necessarily super complex with the strategy, but I think that'll change in successful playing.
Yeah, I just basically jumped right in there. I just didn't really put too much thought into it. I just placing my first seeds or trees, kind of random locations, and try to strategize from there. But
this was kind of a game, I think, especially for our first time playing, where we were really focused on promoting our type of tree, self-propagating for me with a blue brand of tree, for example. And I think we were focused on, because the game, you're not as tasked with managing so many different resources, and there aren't multiple ways to win. You really have to collect these harvest metals. You end up kind of losing sight of what your opponents are doing. Yeah. This isn't, I think you had made the comparison to Ticket to Ride, right? When you're playing Ticket to Ride, you are acutely aware of the progress of your opponents, and you're like, okay, I need to put a train track here, I need to block them from going that direction.
Well, Adrian, I can tell that you were trying to connect, Portland to El Paso. Or at least that's what I think you're trying to do. So I'm going to use 3 yellow cards to connect San Francisco to Los Angeles.
It's kind of like you're kind of left to just play on your own and just be like, how successful and efficiently can I build trees in the amount of time I have to play? So it's kind of simple in that sense. So someone could easily learn this game quickly.
Yeah.
It's not a 20-page manual or anything.
Easy to learn, hard to master, kind of.
Yeah, potentially. And we didn't have anyone here tonight that was particularly aggressive and trying to, whenever you pop a tree up, they would put a tree around it and put shade on it and try to cut you off or anything like that. But you put the right aggressive player on the board, and now the game could potentially shift to being one that's frantic. So
Now, like, if you upgraded this, and that was bigger than that tree, then both trees would still get their points. Cody's would get majorly screwed if you did that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of doing, but I don't.
I would say Ticket to Ride is a little bit more complex in the strategies, and you're more aware of your opponents and what
there's
they're
more ways to
doing,
win too.
and more ways to win, more ways to block them. There's a lot more things to keep in mind. This one's a little more simplistic, a little more. You're focused on your own deal, and essentially you're just focused on getting a level 3 tree and scoring it. Where it is on the map doesn't matter as much as you just getting the level 3 tree.
Turn. Now, I've been preparing for this whole freaking game, and now I can finally do it. I'm going to throw my seed way over there into the center spot.
Point where you put it.
Right here. Here's my tree.
How many points? There's only one spot in the center for a tree?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I mean, it's the center.
Haters cheating.
The board shows one spot.
And it's kind of a balance between that and having up trees to earn resources to, in the end, get more trees. So
Right.
Well, I would say one cool aspect of the game with the sun shifting sides and angles is that, at least for me, was that a lot of times, the reason why I didn't try to screw anybody over was because I was thinking, well, that would screw them over this turn, but when the sun moves, it's probably going to screw me over. So
and I think that
Yeah.
So basically, the corner of the sun should be on the corner of this shape.
I know.
For me, at least, and again, I only played it once, so I think I'm selling it short. But that was the thing that I ran into a lot, even with just my own trees. It was like, well, I got more turns, I got more money. I should spread more trees around so I can get more resources as the game moves forward. But then you're thinking, well, where can I really put it? There's like one area where the sun can maybe be where, I'll get points there, but is it really? And see, maybe this plays in the complexity of it is trying to figure out, well, okay, we got this many turns left. I can put, and that actually happened to me later on where, I could have upgraded. Well, why don't you upgrade to a level 2 tree? But it was like, well, there's 5 turns left, and I mean, I'm covered on both sides. If the sun's over there, I'm gonna get blocked from there. If it's over here, I'm gonna get blocked. And it's like, well, it's probably not gonna make me anything. So, there's some hidden complexity there.
Yeah, and plus too, if you're too aggressive, you can have your own trees blocking each other because you're covering so much area that
it's gonna happen unless you're like 2 people.
Yeah, and so wherever the sun is moving, either you're blocking someone else, they're blocking you, and eventually you have a literal forest by the end of the game.
Right.
And so it is essentially random in the extent that walking into a forest and finding however many trees in a certain given area, and whether certain of those trees are able to reach sunlight. If you play too conservatively, you don't have enough trees to get points to be effective. To that end, also there is a more complex version of the game. There's an advanced variation set of rules specifically.
Now, there are advanced rules to photosynthesis. You don't have to do both of them. You can do one or the other. One is that it just includes a 4th sun revolution counter, giving the sun another revolution around the board. So that just extends the life of the game if you and your friends think the game's ending too soon. The other option, and it's the bigger one, is that players cannot plant a seed or grow a tree when that seed or tree is shadowed by another tree. This definitely adds a huge challenge to the game. I mean, I can imagine there could be instances where you just can't do anything at all during your turn because everything that you have on the board is covered in a shadow.
Would you guys say you were satisfied as far as, we got to the end of the game, you counted up all your points, understanding the end game,
For the most part, yes. But at the same time, I think it could have borrowed from Ticket to Ride more, or even games like Puerto Rico, where you have multiple ways of earning victory points. In this game, basically, you are only rewarded for getting a top-level tree and then harvesting it. And basically, you don't get, other than tiebreakers, you don't get credit for, like, board control, for having trees in strategic areas.
The most trees on the board.
Yeah, completing any sort of other additional objective. And I think that seems like an obvious opportunity in this game, is to add something like that.
And this is a moot point, but I know we played a game recently where it's like the kind of there's different win scenarios. The most over
Sagrada,
here,
probably.
maybe, yeah. If you have the most in this area, you score points. Whoever's most on the board,
Right.
something like that with like randomness, because there's lots of different things that you could add into this game to score points. I think that would be, but yeah, overall, I would say it's again in line with the simple game. It's not trying to be too complex, and I think there's some value to that.
To like maybe add a light or lantern to the sun tracker. The light would cast accurate shadows.
You guys have any final thoughts? I think it's a well put together game. Cool appearance, cool theme. I really like the sun rotating and kind of changing things up every round.
Moves, sun moves.
Cutie boy.
Bam, bam, bam. I am the sun moving. Bam, 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 bam.
Instead of some of these games where the strategy level is just up here and you're not. It's a good thing and a bad thing. If I'm really into it and we get a game like that, then that's really awesome. That means it's gonna have longevity. But there's also a good value for me in a game. Like I mentioned before, it's like kind of like a Venn diagram. If you can meet somewhere with like difficulty and
simplicity,
like strategy, ease of learning. Like
ease of access.
Like I always go back. I think maybe I'm a little too kind to Betrayal, but there's so many different things going on with that game, and you really don't even need to know how to play it.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. I clearly was not the winner, but I would love to be able to play again and see how I do the second time around.
That's for sure. You can't hide forever, Richard. Tell me this is not disgusting. Yes, correct. That face is correct.
Just wait for the aftertaste.
It's disgusting. It's orange toothpaste plus toothpaste with mint.
I really, it's one of those games that looks boring. It looks like a librarian's type of board game, but actually it is pretty fun. It's both educational. It's good for families. It would, I think it's also pretty to look at. It makes a nice design. It's the sort of thing that I think people walking by would catch their eye and they'd ask, "Hey, what are you playing there?" It's nice to actually, as an adult, kind of have a toy aspect to the game where there's like a 3D, there's a physical manifestation of the game. I'm not just conceptualizing, oh, there's like a betrayal, there's a monster in the hallway. Like, no, here I can see the trees that we're making. It's different. It's kind of cut from a little bit of a different cloth than most board games that, are about zombies or building historical civilizations or whatever. This is just, take a trip to the forest and enjoy a little bit of nature.
This vaguely looks like a trail, whatever's going on right through here. Dam over here. Walking around. It's freaking 4 o'clock and it's now almost 9. And it's pitch black. So here we are. This is where we started.
Yeah, certainly a unique theme, and I think there's a lot of value to that. Obviously, the game has to be done well, but the theme, I think, is a fairly big part of it. A certain level of simplicity invites kind of a lack of depth, I think.
That's a good way of putting it.
It's never gonna be
Maybe not never, but
super in depth. Hardly ever gonna be super in depth. There's not a lot of changing parts. You're trying to get points for this, and there's a few strategies on how to do that, of course, which makes it spicy. But it's kind of the same basic little small contained experience every time.
I think every time you play this game, it's going to be kind of the same. So if I go focus on any negatives at all, I'm not sure how much. I'm not dying to play this again. I know Rick really wants to play it again. I think he feels like he could have done better. But I feel like this game was good, and I liked it. I certainly enjoy it, and I recommend it to people. But at the same time, I think there's a certain type of crowd that might get easily bored with this game, especially if they played it once or twice already, because you're essentially playing the same game every time.
It's got a limited floor. It's always going to be pretty good, simple, fun, but it's got a limited ceiling as well. It's not going to take. And
it's not a party game. Depths. This is probably more of a fairly dedicated board gamer type game. You're not going to pull this out in the middle of a Super Bowl party and get people playing Photosynthesis. So
my final thoughts are. Your end game looked like a Arizona Christmas tree farm. You cheated.
I cheated.
And I'm out of beer, so we'll see you in the next game.
Let's get a refill.
First impression.
Thanks for joining us.
Well, Ricky got himself all cocky there. He has 0 stars. And,
What do you want me to say?
you failure.